Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbaugh.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who's really going to help us cut through a lot of the fog in regards to providing a better customer experience. Pete Williams was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia. Growing up as the only child of a math teacher and logistics manager, he spent his winters in the country and summers by the beach. Although his parents were not business owners, both grandparents were, and the entrepreneurial tendencies skipped the generation and landed squarely on Pete. From running basketball card swap meets to designing websites for his school, Pete's small business journey started years before his business degree at Deakin University. Cutting his teeth with the Athlete's Foot franchise during his studies, Pete soon jetted off on a reconnaissance mission for the footwear chain across America. Upon his return to Australia, Pete soon made a name for himself in the media across the country when he sold Australia's version of Yankee Stadium, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, for under $500. This crazy project resulted in his first book back in 2007 titled How to Turn Your $1 Million Idea into a Reality. His latest book is called Cadence, A Tale of Fast Business Growth. Pete is also a Southern Region finalist in the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year program, a Small Business Icon Best in Class recipient, and an Australian Business Award winner for marketing excellence. He is the co-founder of numerous businesses across varying industries, from telecommunications services to e-commerce. Pete's companies include Infinity Telecommunications, simplyheadsets.com.au, Springcom Telecommunications, and Pernur Group, an advisory consulting firm that guides business owners through the process of increasing profits, margins, and other key indicators by using the 7 levers approach to business growth. Pete splits his time between Melbourne, Australia, and California with his wife, Fleur, and his son, Eli. Pete Williams, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Absolutely. Really looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. Now, I've given my Legion a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. I think I'm really enjoying being a dad. Eli's 5.5 years old now, and it's always a big learning curve trying to, grow and mold a human being. It's always challenging and fun, so that's good. The book's just come out, so that's a big passion focus at the moment. And telco, look, I'm not passionate about telco, but I'm passionate about business, and we've been in the space for 15 years, learned a lot, and done some really cool stuff there too.
So as you're going through that and looking at your bio and all the different things that you have your fingers on, and even growing a kid, that's I have 3, and I can tell you all 3 of them are different. So that whole what do you do to help them grow is not the same.
Well, the crazy thing is as you mentioned, I'm an only child. My wife is an only child. We've only got 1 child. We're just like in this bubble of how could you raise more than 1? So I applaud you having to deal with 3.
Well, I think you do find some commonality. And that kind of ties into the book Cadence when you start talking about these 7 levers, right? In that I have, the child. I have, all these different businesses in these different industries. However, there are some consistent things that we have to do, and they have to be part of our cadence. And I have to share with you that I've been using that word actually quite often. Even before I got your book, I started using that word because I think, and we say in society, we don't want to skip a beat. And we have a lot of these things talking about cadence. So for you, what does cadence mean?
So cadence means, for me, I'm a triathlete. I used to race triathlons and cycle a lot. So cadence is more of the cycling term than the music term, which again, as you said, comes back down to the same root definition of consistency, a tempo, that sort of stuff. So in business, whether you own a business, you're an employer, you're middle management, you want to have that consistency and that cadence in what you do, because as you get that cadence, you can build momentum, and that's what drives growth in any endeavor.
Okay, and you and I had the opportunity to talk off mic, and I think it'd be appropriate for us to kind of bring that into this conversation because it was, it's something that I see alignment. And even when I was looking at the 7 levers, I started seeing alignment, with, other vernacular and other types of frameworks. But it does come down to okay, we have to get to the point of execution. And we have to make sure that we are finding our way forward. And so the whole waypoint concept and not going around in circles is critically important. And so when I started thinking about cadence and the 7 levers, while we do have these core foundational, components, and we'll talk about them in a second, but then we get all the art around all of those 7 levers. And I think too many people, that's where they get lost.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I think, whether you're a business owner or you're managing a team or managing a division in a business or anything in between, you can get lost very easily, and you can almost get distracted by the art in the creativity of the marketing or the whatever you're doing in terms of your job, yet you still need that foundation, that roadmap to keep you in alignment. You were saying earlier about the rocks on the road. If you get lost in the wilderness and you're trying to find your way out, rather than just walking around in circles, as you pointed out, was sort of the common human trait. Leaving rocks behind where you've gone helps to make sure you're heading in a straight line. And the whole idea of the 7 levers, or any business framework for that matter, it doesn't have to be the 7 levers. Just having a framework actually gives you positive constraints. And that positive constraint allows you to be creative within the goal of what you're working towards, within that roadmap. And I see so many people getting almost distracted by silver bullets or the latest social media platform or being creative with their marketing and not knowing where that actually fits in with the actual growth of their division or their company.
That's a great point. I mean, to me, it ties back to the whole thing about being a triathlete, right? Is that in order for you to finish that long race, if you don't watch your pace and know that it's a journey, right? I mean,
absolutely,
you're not sprinting.
You're going to blow up very quickly.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get into these 7 levers real quick, because I think it's really important for us to make sure that we explore those to their best extent and fullest extent. So we have, you call suspects, prospects, conversions, average item price, item per sale, transactions per customer, and then margins. Now, when I was looking at these things, I would say if we just stop and took them at face value, we could potentially say, well, this isn't right for me. However, as I started looking at these and what they entail, I started seeing that really, like you were saying, a lot of businesses can use these in order to help them stay focused and not get lost in the minutia.
Yeah, I think there's 2 big things that come out of this sort of conversations. Is that the first thing is a lot of people either say, one, oh yeah, that's not that exciting, that's not that new. I've heard of those things before. That's tell me something new. Give me something I don't know, which is a fair point, and we'll get to that. All the people say this doesn't apply to my business. Yet when you look at any business division, even any products, if you're just working in a product team, this can apply to your division or whatever the thing is that you're working on. That profit in any division or any business is driven by these 7 things, no matter what the business is. Whether you are a landscape gardener, whether you work in a production team inside Apple, work in a corporation, whether you're in a call center doing something around the customer service journey of a particular product. These are the things that drive the profit. And they're not that revolutionary. I'll completely agree with that point. However, what the thing that surprised me when I kind of started playing around with this was that if you increase each of these 10 things by just 10%, just a small boost, the actual compounding effect is a doubling of your business or your division or your product. And that, to me, is the secret sauce around this. It gives you that framework of focus. So, okay, we're not going to grow our business, our division. These are the things that I need to work on. But yet you don't have to actually hit them out of the ballpark every time. That's the beautiful thing, is I don't have to worry about doubling my profit or doubling my traffic or whatever it might be. Just these small 10% wins compound to actually a massive success.
And I've actually seen somebody else kind of use this model. Matter of fact, this week I saw a sponsored thing on Facebook where they were talking about this for basically online type of communities.
Absolutely.
And it was the same type of thing. They said, okay, and they wrote it out in a formula. So they used essentially like you would take the levers and take the first letter, and they're like, for years it's like, S plus P plus. I mean, they made it a formula, right?
Absolutely.
And they talked about, hey, if you just do that 10% improvement, in these, but knowing that you're not going to get across the board 10% improvement, because it's like with anything else. When we focus on something, we get a boost, right? Well, that means we're not looking at other things. So it's a constant, a fluctuation and a constant refocusing. But overall, you're looking at, the big picture, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, you pointed out or hinted at it before. It is that roadmap for when you're working on your product, your division, your team, in that one way to look at it is if you're a middle manager and you've got your marketing team or your division and, your role is to grow the profit of that division or that product, well, this could be your roadmap of focus. Okay, this month we're going to work on the first lever and we're going to try and get that 10% win. The next month, we're going to bring the team back together and have our planning session for the start of the month and go, okay, we're going to work on the next lever. And you, pardon the pun, cycle through the 7 levers over and over again to get that cadence and get that momentum.
I think that's a great point. It goes back to what's your underlying plan, because if not, you're going to be spinning in circles.
Exactly right.
Okay, so when you start thinking about, the book, you actually wrote it as a story. So yeah. So I mean, what brought you to bring it to that, that conclusion and that outcome versus, really getting into the levers themselves and talking about, how do you actually do that 10%?
Great question. What got me there was the first draft was really, really bland and boring. To be completely frank with you, it started off as a traditional nonfiction book. Think the lean startup was the sort of style we were going for, very data-driven, very case study-driven. I've been talking about this framework on 6 or 7 years now, so it's sort of got a bit of momentum and become bigger than me, which is great, and other people are talking about it, which is fantastic. So we started to grab all those case studies and things and make it that bland business book. It just wasn't engaging, and it's not me. I like stories, I tell stories. So I scrapped that and went, let's go back to the basics of what's going to make this engaging for people and helpful. Most people who need this aren't in that world of business. So how can we get it accessible to those people? So it became a parable, and it's actually based on a true story. When I was training for my first Ironman race a number of years ago, the bike store literally across the road from the telco business that we have here in Australia, the owner of that store was a triathlon coach. So I went to him, bought my bike there. He trained me to my Ironman race. And during that 20 weeks, I helped him with a whole bunch of ideas to grow the business. So it's based on that loose story with a whole bunch of other writer's flair, shall we say, to sort of really make it engaging and get other lessons in there that were pre and post that actual experience.
Well, okay. So, thinking about that and talking about, your journey and where you've come. Also, when I read your bio, we talked about you having the Athlete's Foot franchise and then taking off across America. But then there was a gap because we talked about you coming back to Australia and then, you were recognized for all of this stuff. Well, gosh, what did you bring back that allowed you to do that?
Yeah, well, look, Athlete's Foot taught me a lot, particularly even, before I talked to your direct answer or direct question. The Athlete's Foot that was such a great franchise. They were very much focused on a lot of stuff. They had a lot of system-based stuff. They had their greet and seat rules, which is all about getting suspects in the store and then sitting on and trying a pair of shoes. They really got the differentiation between a suspect and a prospect in that someone who walks into your store is very, very different to someone sitting down with a pair of shoes on their feet. And they had that big process to get that distinction, which is something a lot of people and teams don't really think about. So we had that. I went to the US and the plan was literally to start in Florida and work my way back to California in a whole bunch of different stores. But to be frank with you, I was 21, had an Australian accent, and I started in South Beach. You can sort of picture how that went. I didn't really leave. So I spent most of the time in Florida working at one store at Sawgrass Mills, which was amazing. So I didn't really bring a whole lot back, to be honest. Still had my entrepreneurial vibe and was reading a lot of books, and then sort of went back to Athlete's Foot. When I came back to Australia to a new store, it was pretty quiet. Spent a lot of time behind the counter just reading books because it wasn't busy. There wasn't a lot of foot traffic, pardon the pun, and then just sort of learned a lot and kept applying stuff as side hustles, and then they sort of started to grow into what is the group and the other businesses today.
Got it. So when you start talking about, these levers, and you start, talking about moving the 10%, and, and we talk about the art a little bit, and sometimes getting lost in that art. But when you start, really, talking about moving those levers and trying to, make those adjustments, and what do you think is, one of the elements that really enables you to make the most movement?
I think it's focus. I think it's that, knowing that, okay, I need to be creative in my business, in my team to do whatever I want to do, achieve whatever goals I need to. The positive constraint is, I think, massively helpful in that, okay, this particular period of time, be it a week, a month, or a quarter, I'm going to focus on this lever to get this movement. So I'm going to be creative within this framework. And a lot of artists and creators talk a lot about the importance of structure. And I think, I'm not an artist, I can't paint, I can't create in that sense of the term. But when you hear about these musicians and artists, they always say they work best when they have a defined block of time or a process, which from the outside you think, isn't creativity just so all over the shop and not structured? Yet apparently it comes from structure. And this framework gives you that. It's like, okay, I only want to get a 10% boost. So I think that's a massive thing. And I think the other side of that coin is the freedom that 10% gives you. And what I mean by that is that so many people, if you take a moment and think, okay, I've tried to do a marketing campaign for my business or my team or my division before, and we did it and we got an 8% increase, and we felt like we were a failure. We tried to increase our traffic and we only got an 8% boost. Well, hang on. The label of the sales letter said I should have got 10,000 new visitors to my website last week, or we've tried to increase our conversion rate and I only got a small boost. And in hindsight, you probably thought an 8% increase, an 11% increase was actually a failure. Whereas when you look at it inside the context of the 7 levers, all you need is 10% wins to compound and double your profits. So the freedom that it gives you actually allows you to sort of take off the shackles, I guess, and be creative. That the pressure's off. And I think, again, having the pressure off is much more helpful for you to be creative. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. And for me, also, when you were saying it, I started going back to the whole thing of it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. We're talking about cadence. We're talking about paying attention to your breathing. We're talking. All of those things that allow you to, ultimately, get to the victory line. Because if not, you're going to burn out and fall flat.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think it's that, taking the pressure off yourself when you are in your role, in your job, working towards something. It's just like, well, it doesn't have to be that critical. It doesn't have to be that crazy. You can relax. You can breathe into it and enjoy the ride. Heaps of terrible puns here, but you literally enjoy the ride.
Well, I think that's it. Here, I don't know if they use the same term in Australia, but here they talk about athletes bonking.
Yeah.
So in other words, you've exhausted everything and you've hit the wall and you can't go any further. And I do
know that term, but in Australia, bonking is a very different thing.
Okay.
It's like, in America, you're rooting for your team. Here, if you're rooting, you're doing, again, the same sort of thing as bonking, which is
not good.
Something you don't do at a public stadium.
Well, it's good to know. We'll make sure that we cut it. Okay, so this is clean for the U.S. market as far as this episode goes,
exactly.
But maybe not for Australia. Well, okay, I know, talking about, where you've come and, your inspiration and your grandparents and all of that is, having the child. I know there's a lot of things that have influenced you. You talked a lot about, you were reading, and gaining a lot of, information and insight where you could, but I'm sure there's some quotes that inspire you, because one of the things that we look at on the show are those. And so is there a quote or two that you can share that you like?
Oh, there are some. From a management perspective, one of my favorites is, what if you train them and they leave? Well, what happens if you don't train them and they stay? I love that quote. I was using that recently in the office with some team members. That's an important one for me. I think it's beware of the dream takers. That's a quote I do love, in that it's, this is your goal, this is your life, this is your passion. Beware of the dream takers. There's going to be people who have their own agendas and try and take it away from you. Just be wary of them. Don't ignore them. Don't dismiss them. Don't, attack them. Just be aware of them and look at when someone comes and gives you feedback. Is there an agenda behind it? Why is that feedback coming? Is it supportive? Is it based by an agenda? Just be aware of the dream takers because they exist, and if you be aware of them, you can deal with them appropriately.
Also, you talked about trying to make that trip across America and getting stuck in Florida, and I could totally understand being the age you were and where you started. You probably should have started in like Ames, Iowa, someplace like that.
Exactly.
So I know you had humps to get over. Is there a time that you've gotten over the hump that you can share?
Yeah, look, God, I can tell you, ask me once a week almost, when you have a team, everyone sort of has those experiences. One of the big ones for us, I think, in a telco group kind of led to a massive shift for us is that when we first started that business, we thought we were really, really clever. And the way we started that was we went into the market with no telco experience at all. We just found a demand and a gap in the market where we could actually go and generate leads. And we were very, very good at being that sales or marketing company that happened to sell phone systems. So we were getting the leads in, we were making the sales. And what we were doing, we were literally passing the actual customer to subcontractors or really competitors to actually do the installation and the support of the customer. And that was great for us to prove the business model, prove the market. What we learned very quickly was we're getting no repeat customers. Because think about it, if you bought a phone system from somebody and then someone else came to install it and give you the training and support, when you had a problem or needed to buy extra handsets or expand, who are you going to go back to? The people who kind of just took your money or the people who actually came and installed it? Very obvious in hindsight. And that for us was a massive issue. We hit a glass ceiling very, very quickly. So then we kind of sat down and went, okay, well, what is causing this problem for us? What is driving profit in our business currently and what drives profit in other businesses? And that kind of ironically, that point led to the discovery of these 7 levers for us. That was 10 years ago, and from that we kind of refined it, and obviously it's been a foundational point for our business growth, which has been great. So that was a massive issue for us, is that what we thought originally was a massive win, and it was a massive win for us, that business model soon became our shackles almost, that was causing us to actually continue to be able to move forward. So it was interesting to sort of have those moments where you think you're having a win and that turns into actually being the hurdle for you.
So at what point did you kind of come to that conclusion and knew you made it a shift? How did that conversation go? How did that story play out?
Yeah, good. It was probably over a few months, really. No one has that aha moment. I think people say, I had that aha moment. I was in the shower and, it's like, no, you didn't. I don't know anyone who has that aha moment. These aha moments come over time, and in your memory, it was this one thing. But really, I think it was just a sequence of events realizing that, okay, we're having a problem here. We keep hitting a glass ceiling. Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, well, what's our business model? Okay, that's fine. That looks really good. Okay, well, that's what's driving the profit. Yeah, okay, well, what are we missing? And it took a number of conversations and iterations and thoughts. There was that sat down on a whiteboard on one Thursday afternoon at 3:00 and the clouds parted, the sun came down and wisdom rained upon us. It was a progression of different events and conversations.
So talking about that there's not really an epiphany thing. There's something that goes on and then we take some action. And I think that's really almost where this whole thought of, this epiphany comes from, as I've done this show for a long time, because I ask people about their hump and, about that time. It's like when they know something's been bothering them for a while, and then all of a sudden, they don't just say, I'm going to do something about it. They actually do something about it. And for whatever, and as far as our minds, that's kind of when we think the epiphany happened. But it's really been building up the whole time, right?
Yes,
we just finally said, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to do something about it. And it starts today.
Yes. Yeah, you are spot on with that.
Okay, so I know talking about a lot of things going on, hands in a lot of different pies, as we say.
Yep.
When you think about goals,
plate spinning.
Yes. When we think about goals, what's one of your goals?
For me now, the business is really good. We've got great team members. We actually sat down and did the vision in the business recently, and one of the big things that came out is we want our people to leave better when they started. And it sounds a bit sappy, but it's one of our visions now. We have things like, we don't work with Jim Henson, i.e. we don't deal with Muppets and a whole bunch of other really funky vision statements. But one of them is, we only grow when our people grow. And, we give a good salary and we give them good benefits. We want people to actually leave and go, I'm a better person after I left within the Infinity Group than before they started. So that's a big one for me now. I think, the book, with its recent release is going quite well. I want this movement to be bigger than me. There is no real back end for the book. It's not like I've got this book to try and sell courses and anything like that. If you want to buy a phone system, great. But other than that, it's just a book. And I want it to help people and help divisions and help companies, because it's something that I think is missing for a lot of people, and it can be that roadmap, and it can be a bigger thing than what I am, what we are. So,
and the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Pete, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Pete Williams, are you ready to hoe down?
I think I am.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Saying yes too often.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Hire slow, fire fast.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Planning tomorrow tonight.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Ooh, one of the things that helps. I think I am willing to get in the trenches with everybody.
What would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners? And it could be from any genre. And of course, we're going to put a link to Cadence, a tale of fast business growth, on your show notes page as well.
Can I give two?
Sure.
All right. So my second favorite book of 2018 is Joey Coleman's Never Lose a Customer Again. Everyone in business or in a power of decision or customer experience or customer management should read this book. It is absolutely incredible. The other book is from 1923. It's called My Life in Advertising by Claude Hopkins. It's my favorite business book of all time.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Pete Williams. Okay, Pete, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you won't be in South Beach this time. And you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything back. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
The understanding of the importance of second-order consequences. I think this is I read a book recently, and one of the statements really stuck with me, and it was, if you look back and rather than trying to pick 3 skills you had 10 years ago, just think of 3 mistakes that you didn't make. Where would you be? What would be better? And for most people, it's actually taking away 3 mistakes, not actually having better skills 10 years ago. So I think the ability to pause, think through things and think, hang on, what's the second order consequence of this action or decision I'm about to make? And I think that can save a lot of pain, a lot of problems. And actually, you don't have to be smarter, just be less dumb.
Pete, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Look, cadencebook.com is probably the best place to go and check me out. There's the books there. There's links to my other stuff. But really, that's the thing that probably would help them the most.
Pete Williams, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.